Ruthless Aggression.
Vince McMahon walked out with the majority of the Raw roster surrounding the ring in the same building he was declared the official winner of the Monday Night Tour last March, opening the show in Cleveland's Gund Arena for what was on that night the end and start of two historically significant eras in the industry. To see him now over a year later in the same venue with the landscape of the business completely different, announcing the company's new rebranding campaign hyped by him already on Friday, June 7th in the website interview, debuting it as the one quality more than any other that led to his success as Ruthless Aggression, reacting to the massive changes and accelerated business slide over the past month to challenge any member of the roster to show enough ruthless aggression to step up and take the company forward, putting over Brock Lesnar to single him out as the one targeted name to be elevated into a potential difference maker, with his mega push continuing last night as the King of the Ring winner on the way to headline the SummerSlam pay-per-view. With the show, besides the new Ruthless Aggression branding slogan, was originally set to kick off the new creative regime in the company headed by the returning Vince Russo as the creative supervisor of both the Raw and SmackDown brands, following the official announcement of him being hired back on Thursday night, with Russo after staying the night in McMahon's house on Thursday after meetings with Vince and Shane, having the first creative meeting hours later on Friday, with McMahon introducing him in front of the full creative crew, seeing Russo laying out the entire creative plan revolving around a long-term storyline of the debuting Eric Bischoff against the McMahons, along with the reset of the current direction similar to his reboot Nitro show in April 2000, which the Raw broadcast on the night opened in an almost exact scenario with McMahon in the ring in the place of Bischoff and Russo, with Russo reportedly in addition to the main storyline of Eric coming in alongside Vince, with Shane's suspicion before gradually turning on him to bring in several WCW top names to take over the company, as he did 2 years back, suggesting stripping Undertaker of the undisputed title to determine a new champion in a tournament that would see Van Dam winning the title, with issues allegedly coming up during the creative meeting, which included Raw and SmackDown head writers Brian Gewirtz and Paul Heyman, along with Hayes and several of the assistant writers, when Russo suggested Triple H vs Chris Jericho as one of the matches on the tournament brackets, with him due to not following the product in the recent past, not knowing that they just recently had a high-profile program through WrestleMania 18. Giving the room, which was already heated from the start, with Russo coming in out of nowhere as practically their boss going forward. Enough political ammunition among other talking points when reporting back on the meeting to McMahon, who reportedly also didn't like the Taker to Van Dam title change, to call Russo hours later with him on the flight on the way home to shift Russo's role from the creative supervisor to a member of the team as a creative consultant, with Russo already during the meeting followed by a phone call with Stephanie, who had no business being anywhere near a creative position other than her last name, reading the room to predict that things are not gonna work out under the current creative structure, with the days of him working exclusively with McMahon in the past in large part because of the way he left the company, with no individual writer ever given the same creative leeway and responsibility as he had past October '99. With Raw's first hour past the talked about opening segment, with the new Ruthless Aggression concept heavily pushed through every quarter of the show for the rest of the night, featuring a show-long Booker and Goldust vs NWO angle, along with Eddie vs Bubba Dudley and Dreamer vs Raven in a loser leaves Raw match, seeing the 9 to 10 p.m. hour not getting the usual post-pay-per-view boost to instead average 4.6 million viewers in one of the lowest rated hours of the year, holding steady throughout at the 3.5 rating range. 2002 King of the Ring winner Brock Lesnar's coronation was placed in the crossover segment to the top of the hour, with the Brock push after the strong endorsement from McMahon in the opening Ruthless Aggression speech going into overdrive due to the circumstances of the past month, with Brock, while always being targeted by the company as a future major player due to his look and athletic background since his signing to a developmental contract over 2 years back, seeing his push being massively fast-tracked before establishing himself in front of the audience despite his biggest crowd response up to now being mainly Goldberg chants, with him now booked to headline a major pay-per-view at SummerSlam in less than 2 months before headlining a single TV or house show event in his career, setting up his first one on the night with Van Dam interrupting the ceremony to set up Lesnar vs Van Dam for the IC title in the main event, with the top of the hour quarter after the ending of the Brock segment mainly featuring Undertaker vs Jeff Hardy in a match built for over a month, with Taker starting the build to the eventual Rock clash after his involvement in the pay-per-view match last night, seeing Taker vs Hardy going 3 minutes with Taker going over to pick up over 400,000 viewers at 10 p.m., setting up the rematch for next Monday with Jeff challenging Taker to put the title on the line in a ladder match. With last night's King of the Ring pay-per-view ending in a 3-way brawl to potentially set up a Taker-Rock Hunter 3-way title match for next month, Triple H in an interview on the company website hours after the show confirmed that he's set for elbow surgery on Tuesday that will likely rule him out until the next pay-per-view, saying that he wasn't happy with the Taker pay-per-view match as the injury forced him to slow the pace down, while also commenting on Vince Russo being back with the company with Hunter reportedly one of the main political forces against his arrival, saying that Russo is a good idea guy but under the current regime it's a team effort and not a one-man show like Russo was used to in his previous run with it up to him if he wants to contribute, with Raw picking up over 500,000 viewers in total between 10 to 11 p.m. after the lower than usual first hour to average over 5.1 million viewers, picking up for the NWO tag against Booker and Goldust after a show-long build to the match from the first segment, which also saw McMahon taking a shot at Nash threatening to fire him like he did Scott Hall less than a week after Hall debuted as the top name in the first weekly TNA pay-per-view, and while the current NWO is not resembling the brand at its peak run, the legacy of it as the most influential group in history continued to go strong with the company's recent release of the NWO DVD covering the group's WCW run in addition to the recent feud with Rock and Austin on the road to WrestleMania 18, opening strong to jump to the #1 highest-selling video on the Billboard charts. Lesnar and Van Dam made their entrances at 10:52 p.m. to cross over the top of the hour going 10 minutes in the main event, and with McMahon in the opening segment challenging new names to take the spots of the established headliners, the match perhaps more than any other followed by the pay-per-view last night, which for the first time in the generation not featuring the 3 biggest driving forces of the peak run with Austin and McMahon not on the show and Rock only having a limited role, signaling on the rapidly changing state of the company with the first main event in years not to feature the top names of the recent Attitude Era boom period, including the unique situation of Brock Lesnar headlining his first ever televised event while already being booked to main event the second biggest pay-per-view of the year, as the relatively depleted Raw broadcast with the days of megastar power shows still fresh in mind in a stark contrast to just a few months ago with the most loaded roster in history in the first quarter of the year, took a hit on the night to average a month-low total of 4.9 million viewers in one of the lowest-rated Raw shows in its regular time slot in the past 4 years, with one positive being the Van Dam vs Lesnar match placed in the main event spot in a big drawing test with no other established headliner, jumping over 700,000 viewers in total and the only quarter on the night to enter the 4 rating range before peaking at a 4.3 rating in the 6-minute overrun.